Coming up on Behind the Click.
That's, I think, describes a bit the situation we found.
Yeah.
And then it was like, roll up your sleeves and get it done, right?
So someone from HR is coming in and they're like, we're going to fix this. This is going to be great. And you're like, and I'm looking for my next job.
Yeah.
So
Bye.
how do you actually manage to turn that around?
I feel culture and especially leadership doesn't need a lot of money, right? For me, a culture is the small things you do that sum up into this feeling. And it can be like, leaders openly asking how do you feel, and not just asking how you feel, but also listening, right? Taking the time to interact with you on a personal level.
Was there ever a moment while you were going through where you're like, ooh, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the people on board with this?
First day, right, where we have a monthly Q&A where all our flaconis can ask anonymously questions and we answer them on stage. And yeah, there were a lot of critical questions. I was like, probably 5 minutes before I had to go on stage, I was like, I'm not going to say the word that was in my head, but it was like, okay, I think I'm going to go home, right?
In 2023, Flaconi was in trouble. People were leaving, morale was low, and so were the profits. Alexandra Szarmach, appointed as Flaconi's Chief Human Resource Officer, walked into the middle of the storm and had to figure it out and how to turn it around. A few years later, Flaconi is thriving. It is booming, united, and celebrated for a people-first culture. Welcome to Behind the Click, powered by E-commerce Berlin Expo. I'm Janine Heinrich, and in this episode, we talk to Alexandra about how Flaconi faced those challenges head-on, rebuilt the company from inside out, and proved that investing in culture isn't about money. It's about time, focus, and truly caring for your team. Let's get into the episode. Welcome to Behind the Click, Alexandra. I'm so excited to have you here. This is going to be a really fun episode. I can already tell from our pre-conversations. But before I jump directly into the podcast itself, I'd love for us to kind of start off a little bit lighter and with a bit of rapid fire questions. So does that work for you?
Great. Let's get into it. Super excited to be here as well. Thanks for the invitation.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. So starting off really easy, to start your day off on the right foot. Early in the morning. We're actually here in the morning. What helps you the most? Is it coffee? Is it tea? Or is it something else?
So it's definitely coffee. I am a morning person. So the moment my foot touches the floor, I'm wide awake. I think not so much like by my husband, who is not a morning person, but an evening person. So to be honest, for me, it just needs getting up. But then I'm definitely a coffee lover. So a good cup of coffee in the morning together with my colleagues. Yeah. For me, that's the perfect moment. Like half an hour to have a coffee, organize my day, and then I'm ready to go.
That's so admirable. I wish I was that person, more like your husband. So I'm definitely a night owl, and most of the first hour of the morning is me just sitting there staring at the wall like, okay, we're doing this again.
Same for him, like reading newspaper, getting started. I'm like already all over the place. What do we do? I need to get to the office. Bye, ciao.
Love it. That's good balance. We call it balance. So the next question I have for you, which is a bit of an unfair one, because I know you're between locations often, Berlin or Dusseldorf?
Wow, that's a tough one because it's so different cities. I mean, if I could cheat, I would say I love the mix from both because it's the crazy, loud, troubled Berlin where I can discover. I mean, I'm 2 years in Berlin and still, I told you, right, discovering the city. I feel I've barely seen it. And then I have my sweet little cozy Düsseldorf where my family is. If I would need to choose, currently it's Berlin.
Okay.
I've never thought that. I thought always I would be the Düsseldorf girl, being in Berlin for some time. I really enjoy it, but if I can cheat, it's the mix of both cities.
I'll let you cheat. You can take the mix of both cities. But I can definitely also relate to Berlin being surprising in that sense for me, because I'm like, I really love it here.
It surprised me, yeah.
Did not expect that. Okay, the next question I have for you. What's one thing that's sparking joy for you outside of work these days?
These days, I love cozy autumn. So I mean, we arrived here, it's blue sky, the sun is out, it's cold. I know people will hate me, and in 3 months, I will not say I love winter, because in January, I know everyone will say, oh, I'm done with winter. Yeah. But now I love winter season coming up. Yeah,
we've been blessed with a nice golden autumn, I think.
It's true. We missed a bit this summer. I feel like now the weather is making it up for us.
I completely agree. I was hoping for this as well. Okay, another question. What is one word you would use to describe your role at Flaconi?
One word. Wow, that's a tricky one. One word to describe my work at Flaconi. Engage, I would say.
We're going to unpack that in a bit, but engaged, I'm going to keep that in mind. That's really interesting. And the last question I have for you, Alexandra. So about a year ago, Flaconi relaunched its company values with a concept that was inspired by Harry Potter. But before we jump into the specifics of that relaunch, I'm got a question for you. Which Harry Potter house would you say you're in?
I think I would go with Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
But don't ask me why. Let's not start this discussion. I think
Fair
depending who you ask, they would put me in different houses, but I would go with classic Gryffindor.
Like, let's get Juliana here to confirm. Okay, well,
we have to ask the magic hat maybe one day.
Fair enough. Then we're gonna leave that there for now. We will come back to the topic of Harry Potter in a different context afterwards.
But I love it because now it's the season of Harry Potter, right? I don't know about you if you watch it frequently, but winter time is my Harry Potter time, so I'm very much looking forward to watch it again.
I'm excited for it as well. I'm a little bit behind on the Harry Potter trend, so I wasn't one of those kids that grew up like watching it. It was more as an adult, and it's very much the perfect cozy.
I feel it's also a very great adult movie, right? I mean, I've been also only watching it since I'm an adult, but since then I try to watch it every Christmas or every now and then, but I love it.
Yeah, it's feel good.
It's
very comforting. Exactly. And on that trend of Harry Potter and even talking about how it inspired Flaconi's company value relaunch and everything around that, I'm actually interested in kind of talking about the catalyst that sparked the need for this relaunch at the company. So could we take it back to 2023 when you first started at Flaconi, and what was going on at the company at that time?
I think it was very different times, right? I mean, I joined around 6 months after the new CEO has joined, Sebastian, my partner in crime. And I think what we found was a company that have been struggling for some time, right? I mean, for different circumstances. I mean, Flaconi or full economics just came out of COVID times, right? People used to stay in the home office. There have been a few management changes before we arrived. I think there was a lack of a clear strategy. Or Flaconi was just coming out of this, cocooning. We are a well-being company for people, to stay at home during COVID times. So we also were a bit like, okay, who are we as an e-commerce player? So, but I would say identity crisis maybe. And then, of course, the usual challenges that company have when they are growing fast. I mean, Flaconi has been growing rapidly as well in revenue, launching countries, but also onboarding people. So I think there's always also some change and cultural work you have to do when a company is growing fast. But then lastly, the major challenge was that at this time, Flaconi wasn't profitable. Which was also probably a cause for all these management changes. So when we arrived, we found a company that was neither profitable, which was a bit lost in the identity and strategy. Where should we go? But then also, I think this also led to people being maybe disconnected, disengaged, and also because there was no clear identity of who are we as an e-commerce player, who are we as a team, who are we, as a leadership team. Which then I think it's also hard for people to connect, especially if you're onboarded in COVID, everyone's working from home. So that's maybe, that's, I think, describes a bit the situation we found. And then it was like, roll up your sleeves and get it done, right?
That sounds like such an intense situation. Like I'm imagining this very literally walking in and being like, okay, we have work to do. Like this is going to be interesting. And I want to kind of keep unpacking that a bit, because I remember when we were talking at the time, I believe you said it was about a 35% staff turnover at the time. And I personally have been an employee working at a company where you can feel the values aren't there. You can feel the disgruntlement of the other employees and the frustration. And then, someone from HR is coming in and they're like, we're going to fix this. This is going to be great. And you're like, and I'm looking for my next job.
Bye.
So I kind of want to unpack that with you, because I remember you saying you guys kind of went into this fitness situation where you were trimming the business and looking at the fundamentals, but then there's also this aspect of people. But how do you actually manage to turn that around? What was the first thing you did?
I mean, as I said, right, I joined quickly after the new CEO, and I think this is why we are such a perfect pair, because really in this fitness phase, he focused very much on the commercial business. So really looking on, okay, how's the business going? What's the assortment we offer? What's the price we offer to our customers? How do we ship to our customers? So he really nitty-grittily unpacked all the details and basics, because at the end, it's really, you have to be perfect at the basics. topics. So he looked into that, and I very much looked into all the people topics, which were mainly, I mean, you can imagine, I had plenty of things I wanted to do, but for me, it really came down to two major things. So it was firstly the lack of the culture, where obviously, how do you make people stay if there's no culture, there's nothing to stay for. So I firstly looked at the culture, and the second thing we identified super quickly was, okay, we have to work with a leadership team, right? Because at the end, it cannot be only two-person running and leading and inspiring these people. You need to have a strong leadership team that is super aligned, that is very transparent, visible, tangible, and then also this leadership team needs to transmit the culture. So we really focused on these two topics. But yeah, I think I had a list of 100 to-dos.
Can imagine.
But then you also need to set priorities. And it was very much, okay, we have to focus on the culture and bringing people back and engaging people and make sure we have a culture and a DNA. And the other part was very much focusing on our leadership team.
And I think this is the question, because that sounds quite challenging on both sides. So when you're saying that you kind of had the two focuses, of course, improving the lack of culture, getting the leadership on board, what would you say was actually the most challenging group to get on board, or the most challenging part of it? Was it getting the mindset shift from leadership? Was it getting the mindset shift from the employees and the people? Was it implementing the strategy itself? Like, which part was actually the most challenging?
I mean, we definitely focus first on our leadership team, and with the leadership team on the culture, right? I wouldn't say it was challenging, but I think at this time, Flaconi came very much from this comfort zone, right? We chose comfort over growth, right? We always say you need to choose growth over comfort, right? Which also means having maybe not so nice discussion, giving constructive feedback, challenging each other. So we very much focused first on the leadership team, because we felt firstly they need to be on board, right? I mean, if you don't have them on board and they don't trust you and you don't connect with them, then it's hard for you to transmit this to the company and engage with others. So we focus very much on the leadership team, and I think the hardest mindset shift we had to do was really letting go of comfort. Doesn't mean that it's not comfortable anymore. Today it is. I feel people enjoy it very much, way more today than 3 years ago. But I think this mindset was very much we have to like each other, we have to be nice to each other, we have to be kind to each other, which is true. But kindness also means you can challenge each other in a very professional and respectful way. And being nice to each other means also I give you or share my constructive feedback in order to, help you grow and make our job better and make our performance better. And this is something I think the leadership team had to understand, that nice doesn't mean we just have to pamper each other and be, always holding our feedback back and shying away from conflict. And I think this is also a culture we brought, right? You can have very open, transparent discussions. We always say, you can disagree in the room, but then if we leave the room, we agree. I mean, disagree and commit, right? So we can have heavy discussions, we can give critical feedback, but then if we as a leadership team decides, we leave the room and everyone commits to that. And this is, I think, what we had to shift, because when we came, I mean, there was also in the leadership team a lot of uncertainty. So everyone left with different information, with different agendas, with different strategies. And we first brought them all together and also saw who's still part of the team. So who wants to be part of that team, right? After setting up the strategy together and saying, okay, this is how we want to lead this company. Bastian very much drove, okay, in which direction strategy-wise do we want to go? What's our commercial focus? And then we also said, this is how we want to lead as a team, right? And I think the good thing is we took a lot of time to work on that with them together, and not saying, okay, we are here now, we know it all best, so follow us. But we really took a lot of time with offsites and workshops to work with the leadership team and say, this is how we want to work and collaborate. How do you feel about that? You want to be part of that? And then most of them are still there, which is a great
it's a great sign.
Great sign, right?
Exactly. And there's a lot that I want to unpack around that, because it draws a lot of questions for me on this sense. So on one side, it brings me back to what we discussed previously, where you said bringing HR in more as part of the business rather than just an administrative function. And so how did that also affect working together with leadership? Because this also means potentially that you had to change the way they also see HR's role in these things. Okay.
I mean, yes and no. I had the luck, to be honest. I came to a company with a very strong HR team, right? So props go out to my team. Nice. They did an amazing job before I came. But still, I feel that often in companies, HR, what you said, right? HR is there for kind of operations and payroll. And I always make sure, and this is also one of my heartfelt topics, is, as you said, HR needs to be a business partner, right? I'm not doing HR for the sake of HR. You know, I mean, of course, I think I have great ideas, but then, you know, what's the impact if no one in the company needs it, right? If I work on, we need a new vision, and then everyone's like, yeah, but what do we need it for, right? It will not change anything. So I always try to be very close to the business. I mean, I've been also commercial director before, which I think helps, right? People are always quite like, she can talk the P&L, right? She understands our KPIs. She knows, you know, what happens in the web shop, how it's, you know, delivered and that stuff. But I always try and show a lot of interest, ask a lot of questions, because I think HR can only be as good as we understand the business needs. And I'm definitely there to answer the business needs and help them mastering challenges and help them prepare for future challenges, which I think they valued. At the beginning, they maybe felt like, why is she asking so many questions about my business and not only about my people? Yeah. But now they fully understand. I think they also appreciate us for being a strong business partner. And yet at the end, it's still always their decision, right? We always say, look, you are the lead, we trust you, but we are kind of a partner to support you, to face challenges with you and guide you through them. But I already had HR already had a great standing over there. But I think we made it even stronger and a stronger collaboration. And also, with Bastian, I think he also appreciates that, you know, he has a strong business partner. He can focus on commercial. I have some questions on commercial. He is very passionate about people topics, which is also great. He comes with a lot of ideas. So I think this is also something everyone can see, that we as a board, together with the CFO and CTO, we are all on the same page with people and culture, right? It's not me being there on stage and saying, we need to focus on our people and we need to work on our mindset. I mean, if you follow us and see us on LinkedIn, they are all there in their colorful Adidas jumpers, right? And I didn't have to force them. It's not like I said, put it on, jump and be house masters. They are fully on board. And this is what I love about them and appreciate, that we are so on the same page when it comes to the value of focusing on people and cultural topics.
Yeah, and I think it's really wonderful that you could, from the beginning, inherit a wonderful HR team to start off with. You have Bastian, who was already on board, so now you have a united front to bring to the rest of the people, which I think makes disseminating the strategy to everyone else significantly easier. And I'm trying to understand this also, though, from another perspective, which is, like you said, you can speak to business, you can talk about the KPIs. How do you quantify the impact of improving culture? Because it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to improve the culture, we're getting leadership on board, we're going to turn this thing around, but does it at the end of the day improve the bottom line? So how is that for you, quantifying that?
Yeah, I think the perfect thing, and no, maybe not everyone is aware, but in HR there's so many KPIs you can measure, right? I mean, we have the very basic, from absenteeism and turnover. We track early turnover, right? So we even watch like who's maybe leaving within probation period, to also measure our recruiting success. We measure in recruiting the time to hire. So how fast are we to replace position? How fast do we react to people applying? We have our Konono score. We measure office vibe. It's a kind of engagement score. We even have an ENPS. So, you know, it's the equivalent to the NPS. So we also internally measure the satisfaction of my customer, which is the employee. So we do have a lot of KPIs, and we see great development in all of those, which for me naturally translate into business performance, right? Because if you have, as you said, right, we had a turnover of 35%. So how can you manage performance and how can you grow if every third employee is running out, right, or leaving? So how can you be profitable and how can you strive for performance growth, expansion? I mean, we also expanded into more countries. So we do see a positive trend in all these KPIs, which for me goes hand in hand with the amazing success we have been delivering when it comes to our business results. And I think that's the beautiful thing about HR. Often people think it's just about feelings and, you know, mood and all this intangible things. But there are a lot of KPIs. We measure all of them. We also make sure all our leads are aware. So we measure them on team level. The board reviews all these KPIs on a monthly basis. And this is also something we brought to show the impact of all these initiatives. So everyone's aware about their HR KPIs, everyone's aware about the turnover, the engagement, the happiness of our people. And we really also talk numbers to the business. Of course, we also talk initiatives and projects, but we also make sure HR talks numbers, which I think is a great, highly appreciated by the business.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. Honestly, that's also a fun new thing that I've learned, how many KPIs that you're tracking in HR to make sure that things are in line. That's a cool learning for me. And I think it's interesting also to explore this even more, because I believe from the research, 2024 was one of the best financial performing years for the company, which was more or less just a year after you joining, which is already phenomenal to hear the turnaround happen so quickly. So that is a testament to the initiatives. And where I'm curious about this is what we look into the wider ecosystem right now, things are looking pretty tough. A lot of companies are laying people off. It seems that when things aren't going well, the first thing to go are the people and cutting back. And I think also the culture of the company tends to suffer in the process. So I wanted to kind of explore this from your perspective. Where do you maybe think that companies go wrong in times like these?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to blame anyone, right? Because I mean, if you have to make choices, you have to make choices. And of course, people tend to go to all the people topics because it is, I mean, payroll is always a heavy cost block besides marketing, products, rent, maybe, right? So, of course, you always look at the big things. And then you feel, okay, protecting your brand, maybe you cannot cut down on marketing. So I think it's very natural that people tend to, okay, we stop events, we stop benefits. But then I think that's another myth, right? I mean, engaging employees and putting focus on culture doesn't always mean financial resources. It does definitely mean resources, because you need people to think about, okay, what can we do, right? Our Harry Potter concept needs to stay alive. We have events, we have games, we have communication around that. But I feel culture, and especially leadership, doesn't need a lot of money, right? For me, a culture is the small things you do that sum up into this feeling. And it can be like, leaders openly asking how do you feel, and not just asking how you feel, but also listening, right? Taking the time to interact with you on a personal level. It's us showing up in the office and events. It's us as a board, when we have events, staying afterwards and leaning a hand, right? We don't leave the event and say, okay, thanks for organizing and off you go, but we're always there to clean up as well. So I think it's the small things. Of course, it's nice to have money to do fancy events. We love to do that. I mean, we just rented a full jump house for our value event, right?
It looked like a blast.
It was a blast. We all felt like little kids. So of course, it's nice to have financial resources, but I feel especially culture and strong leadership doesn't need a lot of financial resources. So I think that's a myth where people always think, okay, let's cut all these events, but an afterwork can just be an afterwork and you bring some, like, I don't know, beer and Coke, right? It doesn't always need to be fancy catering. And a come together can just be a come together where the management board shows they have time and they take time, right? I mean, we meet all our newcomers once a month for breakfast, for example. Yes, a breakfast costs a little money, but I mean, it's not not caviar and, breakfast. It's like a nice breakfast, but I think it's more about us taking an hour to sit down with them, being available, being approachable.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many initiatives that doesn't cost money. Or another example is we launched, when I came, as you said, I had a super long agenda, right? There were 1,000 things I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, but why do we from HR have to do it, right? We have so many amazing flaconis. They have so many great ideas. So we launched an initiative that is called Your Flaconi. So it's 6 projects. It's always annual projects that we pitch at the beginning of the year to all our flaconis, where they can apply for a passion project. Nice. And then they are part of this project group, right? And it's topics like, we have a flaconi group around D, Y, and B, right? That I'm leading, but it's 18 flaconis from all departments, all hierarchy, that are super passionate about the topic. And together we organize like diversity days, CSD events. Then we have a flaconi cares group, so a group that during the years doing initiatives to collect donations. And then the end of the year we donate a lot of money. So last year we donated over 50K just from this initiatives, where flaconis came and donated money. So we have these groups to engage people. And again, this doesn't cost any money. It's just someone from HR leading this group. We meet with the group every 3 weeks for an hour. They set up their own action plan for the year. They follow up the actions. They organize events. They organize initiatives. And that's a super great way to engage with our flaconis at zero cost. I mean, yes, then you can argue it's 1 hour where you bring 10 people. Of course, there's cost. Now the finance guys will say, but there is resource costs. But literally, I mean, it's 1 hour every 3 weeks. And you see all these groups, they do an amazing work. And this is also a way to engage people, not saying top down, now we want to work on diversity. Now we want to work on performance dialogues, for example. So we also bring heavy HR topics in there for these groups, right? It's not only fun and, here's our party committee, here's our sports group. It's also like topics, around DEI, about how do we take care and social engagement. So, I can understand why people cut down costs, but then everyone, please remember, not everything costs a lot, right? It's more about time and actually meaning it. I think that's the difference.
And as you were talking, I was kind of taking notes around what you said, because it sounded like it kind of came down to 4 fundamental things. It was taking the time, leadership taking the time to have a listening ear and opening ear to ask, how are people feeling? There's the aspect of showing up yourselves and making sure that everyone is involved in these things. Is the aspect of being available if someone needs to talk about it. And then, of course, is getting everyone engaged so that they can take their own initiative. So of those 4 things that I listed, do you think any one particular really makes the fundamental difference?
I think what was most important when we came 3 years ago is really being there, being transparent and honest. I mean, we have been brutally honest with the company, right? We said, look, guys, we are not at a good place. I mean, this company is not doing well. So we can either now follow all the other examples and lay off people, or we can make sure everyone sticks around. It's going to be a tough couple of months, but then the moment we shift the things around, we're going to return it to you, right? I mean, when I arrived, there was literally no budget for salary review or salary increase, right? But people were asking, like, can we have a salary increase? So we went there up on stage and said, look, guys, you can have a salary increase, but this means we have to let go the other half of the team, right? Wow. So, or maybe not the other half, but some of the team. So look around, right? Do you want to have a salary increase and say bye to your colleague, which luckily no one wanted? But then I think it's also, I mean, and that's also something you have to, as a lead, you also have to get on stage and share the uncomfortable truths, right? It cannot only be parties and popcorns and unicorns. You also have to let people know about what's our reality. And I think this we did from moment one. We never promised anything we cannot deliver. We have been very transparent without, sketching this horror scenario. But we said, look, it's going to be 3 to 4 months. We have to be a bit more cautious with spending money. But then the moment this company turns around, we're going to reward you back. And we did, right? And this is also something I think you have to walk the talk. But sometimes this also means you have to stand up and share hard truths. But then the moment it works out, you also have to deliver what you promised, which luckily we could. So I think this was most powerful, being there and being honest.
Okay. I think that's really interesting, because for myself now, in my own founding journey and having my team, this aspect of transparency has been one of the most eye-opening aspects of building the company for me, because I believe in the beginning I was a little bit more shy and hesitant, like, okay, I can't let them first see that I'm going through it and trying to figure this stuff out in the tough time, but also I didn't want to be as transparent about how tough things were getting. And then I remember at one point just coming to the group and being like, listen, here's the case.
Great.
It's either we can do this or we can't. I don't know, but this is where I'm at. I put all the cards at the table. And I was so surprised actually to see how receptive everyone was. And afterwards, it kind of was getting everyone into kind of this game time mode, where you're like, oh, okay, so we're all in this, okay. And it's a different feeling, actually.
Is, right? I mean, it boosts commitments. And in this moment, I think probably you also you can really see who's committed and who's in game, who's rolling up their sleeves to say, we're gonna do it as a team, right? I think this is the moment where you also see, okay, who wants to be really part of that, also in tough times, who's connected to their colleagues, who's connected to the story and the vision behind. So great.
Yeah.
Great experience for you as well. Thanks
for
sharing.
It's been a growing journey. But that also is why it's bringing me to the next part of the conversation, because we've talked so much about leadership in this conversation, but now we're going to flip it to the people.
Great.
And what I think is interesting is that in these tough times, when a company is going through these tough transitions, trying to make it out, trying to get profitable, and you already are struggling with relatively low morale, people are maybe a little bit more pessimistic, how so we talked about the transparency aspect, but you can be transparent, but let's talk about the culture within. And I've known this at my own company where other companies where they're being transparent, they're being honest, or at least they're telling you how they want to change the culture, but you sometimes have a few pessimists in the group who maybe spoil the mood for everyone else, even when you're trying to make a change. So I wanted to ask, how was the process for you trying to rebuild the trust and the morale after such a turbulent period with the team?
I mean, I think the first 6 months have been tough, right? I mean,
Okay.
I fully understood. My first day, we had to go up on stage. Everyone was looking at us, right? We were the new ones. We came with a bunch of not so good messages because before no one has been so transparent about where did the company stay financially. So I think we brought a lot of tough messages, but then we also brought the spirit of, okay, we can do it. I mean, we believed in this company. We believed in the story. We believed that it's a great, beauty is a great product. E-commerce is a great place to be. So I think we tried to be transparent, but we also tried to share our drive and belief and created trust with it. And I think the first months were, for me, full of, a lot of one-on-ones, making sure we are there. We spend a lot of time with people, sitting at their lunch table, grabbing people for coffee, being always available. But the first 6 months have been tough. And I mean, people have been very super open and honest. And Flaconi was always a place of amazing people, even when I joined and the culture was maybe not so strong. It's an incredible place. Everyone's so nice, so helpful. So I think we were really counting on that, on say, okay, guys, give us 6 months. I mean, we said, stay around. I remember I was on stage to say, I'm not going to do a salary round, but stick around for 6 months. Because I said, if everyone's running out, right, how can I build a company? How can we build a culture? How can we build a team spirit if everyone's leaving? So we just asked people for trust, and we asked to trust us for 6 months. And in the 6 months, I think it didn't even take 6 months, but people week by week, month by month could see that, we were able to turn around the business commercially. We were bringing a lot of thoughts and ideas to engage with our Flaconis. As I said, we opened these Your Flaconi groups. So we really make sure we bring people on board, right? It was not us sitting in a room for 3 months and then coming out and say, ta-da! That's the strategy. But we really engaged with people through the full process. We also asked them, what do you need? What do you want? So I think we didn't do any magical trick, but again, right, we were there with the team. We were part of it. We also said, look, we are also part of that. The leadership team is part of that. No salary increase for the leadership team. So we are all the same. But now we roll up our sleeves together, and I think they saw we were there. We invested a lot of time, and then week by week, month by month, we saw that the company is turning around in a different direction.
I'm kind of curious. I think that I find it very admirable, and I think I'm curious to kind of understand what inspired your leadership style in this situation, especially thinking back to even before you were in this position of Chief Human Resource Officer. What inspired that style? Because I think there's so many different ways of leadership, and I'm kind of curious were there just maybe examples from the past where you're like, I don't want to be like that, so this is why I'm doing it this way this time around. Or what inspired you to go up on stage and be like, just trust me, we're gonna try this?
I think both, right? I mean, I was super lucky. I had in my past 2 super strong female leaders with very different background. I mean, my former CEO at another beauty company, she was the mother of 2 kids, managing small kids, travel a lot. She also had a very successful husband, but she was always, I mean, still so humble. I mean, she was super successful, super busy, private and business-wise, but she was always so humble, right? It was 8 p.m. in the evening. She would still come by your table, sit down, check in. And it was just the small things, right? Take 5 minutes. You knew she was super busy. She always put her phone on the table, flipped it around, even though probably her kids, were at home. But I think this was the small things that I appreciated really right from the start. And then my other female leader, she was a perfect master of this brutal honesty. I mean, sometimes brutal, but
Yeah.
I always knew where I stood with her, right? I always knew what she liked. I always knew when maybe it wasn't what she was expecting. So this is what I admired. So I think it was very much, okay, what do I aspire in leadership? And I tried to incorporate that. But then, yeah, I also had leaders, you know, that took all my air because they were micromanagers. So I learned that definitely I'm not going to be a micromanager. I'm going to let go and let, you know, people strive and bring their own ideas and not say, I want this to be a square box and just please go in the square box. So I think, yeah, it was mostly learning from very strong leaders and female leaders. I had the pleasure.
That's wonderful.
But then I also had one or two leaders where I'm definitely not going to be like that. And I think then the rest is just I found my passion job, right? I'm very into people. I'm very into connecting with people, listening to them, making sure they're happy, making sure they're engaged. Also in my private life, I love to take care of people. So I think I just have the perfect match of my personality with my job, and then also had very inspiring leaders.
Yeah, that was really wonderful to hear. And even when we talk about this turbulent 6-month period where you were really trying to turn things around, I think it's wonderful that you had that inspiration from those leaders to call upon while you were going through it. But was there ever a moment while you were going through where you're like, ooh, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the people on board with this?
Yeah, I think maybe even before I joined, I heard like people were calling because they knew I would be coming. And, you know, I heard a bit about this turbulent times. And I remember just a week before I was looking at my husband was like, I don't know what I signed up for. I think I signed up for something bigger than I imagined. And then probably my first day, right, where we have a monthly Q&A where all our flaconis can ask anonymously questions and we answer them on stage. And yeah, there were a lot of critical questions. I mean, there were questions of, do we have to fire people? How is the company doing? Why has the former management team had to leave? Do we get a salary increase? You don't take care of us. I mean, there was literally, I would say 80% like critical comments. And I was like, probably 5 minutes before I had to go on stage, I was like, I'm not going to say the word that was in my head, but it was like, okay, I think I'm going to go home, right? And then, of course, I think there were a few moments where I thought, okay, are we going to turn this around and will people stick and will people follow us? But then I think what gave me comfort was this strong management team or the strong board that is so aligned in what we want to go for. And we are all very much like driven by this, okay, we're gonna show everyone that we're gonna be better, right? We're gonna show our people that they can trust us. We're gonna show all the competitors out there that we are the best e-commerce beauty company. So we are all very driven and very competitive, which I think you need to have at that moment. You need to be competitive. You need to be very driven and passionate about what you do to really go through this moment of change and turbulence. But yeah, there were definitely one or two moments where at home I was like, oh God, where is this going? Am I doing the right thing? But then luckily it quickly turned out day by day it is. But I would lie if I would say if you ask my people, they would probably say she never, if you look at her, she's always in a good mood. She's always full of drive. But then, of course, I'm also human, at home at the weekends. And there are moments where I also question myself and question if this is the right thing and am I a good leader? I mean, no one's perfect, right? So I think I wouldn't be me if I say, no, I never worry. I definitely worried less day by day, which was a great relief. But at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, where did I get myself into and how? And not only for me, I think I was looking at this 400 eyes or 400 people looking at me with such great expectation. And I mean, it's a huge responsibility, right? The company didn't do well. We saw a lot of companies around us either freezing their positions or letting people go. So of course, it's also a great responsibility. But then, oh my, it was also a great joy, right? I mean, looking now at what we achieved, it's really amazing. And I'm so proud of the full team, proud of my colleagues. But yeah, definitely there were days where I was like a bit afraid, I would say.
I can only imagine. And I think that's so human and so real. It's like, it's so honest. And I appreciate you just being so transparent about that as well. And I think that's like the last question I have around that is, Was there a particular moment where you felt like, things are changing now, I can feel it?
Yeah, I have. So before I joined, I think a month before I joined, there was a Flaconi kickoff party and they invited me. And I remember there was this one particular employee who very early in the evening probably had a few drinks too much, but for half an hour, I think he didn't know who I was at this time because some people knew, but they invited me, and obviously at a party I didn't go around and say like, "Hi, I'm Alexandra, I'm the new CHRO." So of course I introduced myself when I started talking to people, but it was still a party. So I think he didn't really know who I was. He asked a bit, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna join the P&C team, right, the HR team." So for half an hour he complained literally about everything, right? The leadership, the board, the culture.
And what are you doing? Just
Everything.
smiling and nodding?
I mean mental notes, right? Everything we have to fix.
Yeah.
And then a colleague, someone from my team, joined and said like, "Hi, you've met our new CHRO, right?" I mean, he didn't even flinch. He didn't flinch. No, he was the most honest person I've ever met, even without drinks. Afterwards, I noticed. I was also like, okay. And then this person 3 months later came to me and said, "Wow, I didn't thought you as a board will turn it around. I was just expecting another management team to come. We wait for you to come, to fail, to go." So I think this is, and then more and more followed, but it was for me especially this critical one, right? I mean, as I said, we have such a beautiful culture. People come to us and thank us when we have this newcomer breakfast every month with the new joiners who are with there for 3 months. Or 3 weeks, sorry. They're all like, "Wow, you can really breathe and live the culture. You take so much time. There's so many great benefits." But I think for me, it's always the critical. If I can turn around the critical voices, that's for me even a bigger achievement.
100%.
Yeah. So I think this for me was the moment when he came after 3 months and said, "Good job." And then there was it was actually another person from the leadership team who he's more an introverted guy. He rarely speaks up. He's a great lead. But then also at another party, it was 6 months later, he sat next to me and said like, "Look," I mean, he just looked at me and nodded, and I was like, "Okay, will you say something or not?" And then he said, "Great job you did." And then he left, right? But that's for me, that's all you need, right? And that's these moments that fuel me up for months.
I can imagine.
I mean, this is the moments where you're like, yes,
I can imagine.
You did.
No, really, congratulations to you on that. And I think it's a real testament. I mean, now at this point at Flaconi, you have nearly 700 employees from 60 different nations with more than 50% of women in leadership. And I think these are all phenomenal figures to think about. And so I want to kind of take it back to what I know is fundamental in the core values of the company, because I've seen the house myself and saw that people and mindset were at the foundation, which was also a bit eye-opening for me to see, because it's not always the case. And so I wanted to also ask, because you've said this before in the past, it's personality first and then the skills second. So could you maybe shed a light on why you have that philosophy and how it's paid out as well?
I think this is something, as I said, I really appreciate about the board, right? When we sat down and worked on the strategy, it was so clear for us that the fundament of our strategy will be people and mindset. We call it people and mindset because we feel of course it's about the people, but then we need to be aligned on the same mindset. And we spend a lot of time already when hiring people, right? I mean, normally there's a lot of functional interviews. You have to bring a presentation, you have to prepare a case, but we also make sure from the moment we interview candidates that we spend a lot of time explaining our culture and our values, and then also integrating this obviously in the questions, right? But we invest a lot into giving a lot of insights about the company because we feel by today, I mean, you know the market, right? It's not, we also have to apply for people. I mean, luckily we have a great brand and we are expanding. It's a great place to be. But still, I feel you also need to share. You cannot only sit there and ask 20 questions. You also have to open up and share who we are. And I also feel it's so important that people from the beginning understand who we are as a company and as a team, as a culture, because you also need to to want to be part of that, right? I think not everyone wants to be part of that. We have a great culture, but maybe it's not a culture for everyone. So we invest a lot of time explaining our culture. We have a lot of interviews around, our values. We have a meet the team, so everyone can meet the team before, because again, I think it's so important that people feel connected to their colleagues. They feel it's a great place to be. I mean, we are at work quite some time, right?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, right? So we spend more time with our colleagues, maybe sometimes, than with our families. So from the moment we hire people, we make sure we invest a lot into showing our culture and making sure it's a match, rather than only asking tons of functional questions, presenting a business case. And then from the moment people start, part of their onboarding is an onboarding around our values. They directly join their value house. They are greeted by the house master. They directly come into this Harry Potter, value game world. There's no way around. Which, I think for us works fine. And then I think it's also now our philosophy internal, right? When we think about promotion or cross-functional steps, that we always rather feel like, okay, if someone has the drive and the energy and maybe little to zero functional knowledge, still give it a try, right? Because I think I'm a believer of you can learn everything. I mean, we are not working in the NASA with rocket science or chemical industry, where probably you need to have certain skills. Of course, in our engineering team, probably I wouldn't send someone from marketing to engineering. Maybe with Gemini, why not? But let's not rather go. My CTO will call me afterwards and said, you didn't say someone from marketing can go into engineering. But I think in the future, why not, right? In the future, I might even imagine that. So I think this is also what we try internally. If we see a talent, and talent for us doesn't mean he or she knows the most. It's really about the will, the drive, the energy, the collaboration. Then that's the people we're gonna promote. That's the people we're gonna give a chance to grow into another department, make a cross-functional step. I did it for myself as well, right? I promoted someone from one team to the other with zero functional knowledge. But I feel if you want something and you have the energy and the drive, you will learn anything and you will succeed. And I'm such a big believer of that, and it's also part of our culture now. And we have so many great examples. And we try really to promote this mindset of, yes, for some positions, definitely you need to have some functional knowledge and experience. But for most of them, if you really want it, we couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I can even attest to that in my own career journey, where it's just someone being like, okay, I think actually one of my bosses had said to me, he was like, I don't think you've got the skills yet, but you've got the drive and the personality, so I'm going to give you the best.
And the rest you will learn, right?
Yeah.
And you will either learn from others or by today. I mean, there's so much in the, you can have Gemini, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the best partners, right? I'm near to getting an Excel Pro finally, with the help of Gemini. I was always, not my best friend, Excel and me, but now.
I completely agree. It's changed the game.
We're getting there, right?
Exactly. So it's really, if you've got the willpower, the discipline to learn, the rest you can get there so long as you've got the right attitude. And I think that's a phenomenal thing to talk about, actually. And it leads me to sort of the next part, because you already hinted at it in what you said, which is bringing it back to the Harry Potter houses. And it seems, first of all, before we even jump into my question, actually, the Harry Potter houses that you have are more or less 5 houses. So they are, correct me if I'm wrong, trust in people, build fast to last, living data, customer centric, and embrace change. And
perfect. You can let me know when you want to join.
Gotcha. So I kind of want to understand what actually inspired this sort of gamified approach to relaunching the company's values.
Yeah. So this again, I mean, this is one of the major focus since I joined, right?
Yeah.
We had, and I've been working for companies with great values. These five values, you named our company values. I've been joining companies with great values, but then mostly it's values on the wall, right? You sign them when you join the company. Yes, I've, read and understood the values. Then you maybe sometimes see little icons here and there. But then for most of the companies, that's that when it comes to values. And when we came, as I said, this was one of the major things we wanted to turn around. We wanted to create a super strong bond and company culture around our 5 values. So also for this, it was me. I cannot take the credit here. As I said, we built this Your Flaconi group around the values. We had people who are super passionate about the topic applying to be part of the project group. And then I think it was 20 of us reworking the full concept. We critically looked at our existing values and said, like, are these still the values? I mean, it was values for the last 11 years. Doesn't mean it's the today's Flaconi reality, right? So we also looked with everyone, with our leadership team, with the board, with the Flaconis at these values and said, is it still who we are? And is it also who we want to be and how we want to act and how we want to work together? So we firstly tweaked them a bit around, reworked them a bit. And then for me, most important was, okay, how do we bring them to life? But because for me, it's not enough to say, look, company, here are great values. I read them out to you. I tell you what it means. And then, ta-da, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
This is for me, not my aspiration and not my, this wasn't the objective. And then it was this amazing Flaconis with their great ideas, little by little, how we came up, right? I mean, we were definitely super fast in the decision. We wanted to have a concept with gamification because this is very much who we are. We are very competitive, but then we're also very fun. We don't take ourselves, too serious. So then we came up with, okay, how can we bring these 5 values to life? Someone came up with Harry Potter. Someone else said, maybe Game of Thrones, maybe a bit too competitive. And then we said, like, Harry Potter, mostly everyone knows. I think when we asked at this time, the company who doesn't know Harry Potter, it was 3 or 4 hands rising. And then we said, okay, make sure you watch the first movie, but you don't have to watch the rest. You don't have to read the books, don't worry. And then we came up with, okay, let's give the values each a color. Let's have merchandising around that. Let's bring a housemaster for each of the values. So that's pretty much how the concept came up. So we have this 5 values that are 5 value houses. From the moment you join, you're kind of, part of one value house. You have your housemaster. So everyone or each of the board members are leading a house. You have your colors. You can always see it here and there. We bought this funny Adidas tracksuits in the house. I mean, it was so perfect, right? Everything came together. We found these Adidas tracksuits in the colors.
If it works, it just works sometimes.
We invented a figure which is called Dr. V, so Dr. Value. So because we were like, I was like, how do we bring this magical hat from Harry Potter, to distribute people to the houses? Obviously, I mean, I was looking the internet up and down for this magical hat, but didn't find anything. So we created this character, Dr. V. It's someone from my team. We gave him a nice biography, right? He's a professor in the universe of values and so on. And he was the one to kind of come up with a magical formula to distribute people to the houses. So we also make great events around that, right? Twice a year we have value events. We have our value day at the beginning of the year. We have our Olympics in summer, which is kind of like Olympic Games, where we compete against each other. And then throughout the years we have different activities where the Flaconis can collect points. And then the ultimate goal is obviously to collect as many points as you can throughout the year to then at the end of the year become the winning house. And then, of course, there's a great ceremony around that. You get prizes, the house gets awarded. But then mostly it's also about the glory and honor, I can tell you, which is, again, super nice to see, right? It's not like we promise if you win, you're going to get €100. It's really about this fun events throughout the year, and you can really see people going crazy. I mean, we went a couple of weeks to this jump house. It's an arena full of trampolines, right? And I mean, we are adults in a corporate environment, and you can hear them screaming, laughing, jumping. It was such a blast. 4 hours, just fun. And I think this is how, and in the end, right, it's not that we stand there and say, today it's about build fast to last. What does it mean? But in the end, this value concept is about bringing people together, having fun. Yes, reminding them what our values are, but hopefully they can live and breathe that in the day-to-day. It's really about, coming together. And this is especially when I look back at 3 years where we didn't know each other. We didn't spend time with each other. And now everyone comes to the office. They love the events, but they also love just coming there and meeting their colleagues and spending time with them. In the end, this was the ultimate goal for people to get connected and know each other, have a great time together. And it's not about the win, it's more about these moments and the glory.
It's kind of nice at the end, right?
In the board, it's also about the honor. I can tell you we are very competitive about that.
I love that. As a competitive person, I'm like, this speaks to my soul and spirit. So I really love that. And I think what I'm trying to understand even more in detail is what does that look like on the day-to-day then within the company? Because you did mention there's a few events throughout the year, but what does carrying those values actually look like day-to-day?
I think not only, I mean, we have this big events throughout the year, but then you have these, challenges that go on through the year. So, for example, you can attend a training, and then this gets you point. You can attend a breakfast lecture, and this gets you point. So we try throughout the year to find initiatives that kind of represent our values. So, for example, living data, it means, we want people to have access to data. So everyone has access to data. We have a lot of dashboards. We want to make decisions based on data, and then also measure our success. So, for example, in the past, you could collect points for living data if you frequently check out our dashboards and really have a look into our data. Or trust in people, for example, means winning as a team, right? So we want to show up to each other. We want to celebrate successes. So once a month, there's a breakfast lecture where a team is presenting its successes and projects, and you get points for showing up there. People would show up anyway, which is nice, but we always try, and with this connection, we always try and explain again our values, right? So trust in people, why is it important for us to win as a team, to be inclusive and diverse? What's the benefit? And from the moment people join, I mean, it's, as I said, they have a dedicated onboarding session that is done by us. So it's always one of the board members explaining the values and why it's important for us. And I think, again, it's these small things that sum up. I mean, we have, on PowerPoint presentations, you can use the icons. So we see when people present something during the all hands, they say, and by the way, this project is built fast to last. And this is so funny. It's not even pushed by us anymore. You can really see people embody these values. They are so proud to be a value house. When they meet and they are, and which value house are you? Or every month when we release the new scores, you can see in the Slack channels, people are like, "Yay, we made it on rank 2." And I think it's just a fun way to connect. But in the end, what makes me proud is that when I joined and asked people, okay, what are our values? Out of 5, they could name you 1, which was trust in people, which I think most of them were mostly it's about people. Some knew trust in people, but most were like, there's this one value with people. Gotcha. And today, if you ask new joiners in the 3rd week, they are so proud. Do you want me to name you all the values, right? Sweet. And it's also, again, we measure that, right? We have exit interviews when people leaving, where we ask a question like, is there anything about the culture and our values that made you leave? And how do you feel? Do we still feel connected to our values and culture? And we see such great scores. I mean, yes, we do have people leaving. I think that's natural, way less than 3 years before. But it's so nice to see that even the moment they leave, they still rate the values and the culture so high. I'm super proud. I think we have now the 17th returner to us in 2 years, which is also nice to see that people leave, which I absolutely understand. I even encourage people to have a look what's out there, especially if they're career driven. But then it's also nice to see that they come back and say, you know what? I could never find a team and a culture that was so supportive and engaging. So I think it's the small, besides the big event, I think it's the small things that we try. And then again, at the end of the day, it's walk the talk. It's lead by example, which is one of our leadership values. It's lead by example. We as a management and leadership team have to also show we live these values. We have to show we trust our people. We have to show that we look into data and don't make decisions because we think we like an idea. We have to be open for change and also challenge each other. And this is very much what we try also as a leadership team, to live these values. Which is working out well.
Very much walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
True.
At the core. And I think this is interesting because as we're rounding out the conversation, I think about when you started, which was sort of this post-COVID era. We're kind of in another era again of whatever else is going on. We don't really know. It was a strange times we're living in. We'll just call it that. But I also think to how the work environment has also fluctuated and changed quite drastically, more than it has, honestly, in the last decade. So with COVID, a lot of people were working from home, got used to this home office way of working. Then COVID ended. Companies were slowly like, hey, you should come back. People were like, oh, don't want to.
I don't think so.
Exactly. So it reminds me of what you said about the topic of being comfortable or losing comfort in a way. And so when you look back to this time period, were there some comforts that people maybe potentially had to lose in order to get to this point of creating a better culture within the company?
I do. Yeah, I think for some, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
change is always, change for some people, change is way easier than for others.
Yeah.
And probably for some, it was more comfortable in the old way of flaconi than it is, in the
Yeah.
new way. I think on the long run, they all understood why it's not all about comfort, right? I mean, we very much try and have this balance of people and performance. So
Yeah.
we say, look, we give a lot, we invest a lot, we have a lot of trainings, we have a lot of benefits, we give you a lot of freedom. But then on the other hand, very basic, we also ask for something in return.
Yeah.
And I think this at the beginning was very hard also for leads to say, like, we also ask for something in return. And I was like, but why? I mean, it's very basic, right? We give all that, and I feel we give a lot. So it's also natural to ask for performance. I mean, we are not asking for people to stick around 12 hours. It's a very, healthy work environment. But then in these 8 hours they're there or at home, we ask them to be highly productive, to be really concentrated, to come up with new ideas. So I think, of course, we lost some on the way who decided comfort is the better place to be, which again, I absolutely understand. But this is what made us successful, that we also in some moments chose growth and heavy growth over comfort. And this also means, rolling up the sleeves, being there. Also sometimes, again, arguing, making tough decisions for the better. So if you ask me, yes, we lost some who preferred comfort. But now I think we found the perfect balance between, we are a very people-oriented company that shows great performance and that highly acknowledged performance and their talents. So we also always say, we really take care of our talents. We want to make sure they stay around. We want to make sure they engage. So we invest a lot into that. But for that, you also need to give us something, and ideally the good something and not the comfortable something. But then also, we weren't a company that forced everyone back in, right? Our rule is 8 days a month. And instead of forcing people in again, we thought, like, I mean, yes, I can stand there and say you have to come in, but why not turn around and make people want to come in, right? We created a place where people want to be, where they maybe have some FOMO and say, like, if I'm not there, maybe there's a great event, I mean, and again, it's not like we have events twice a week, but again, it's us showing up as a board. I mean, Bastian and myself, we don't come from Berlin, so we commute a lot, but we are there 5 days a week, right? And then again, I think it starts with leadership. We made sure our leads are there, because why should employees come if there's no lead? And why should employees give performance and choose uncomfortableness when their leads doesn't? So I think this is where we started, and by today, I would say it's a very comfortable but very performance-oriented company.
Yeah, I think it really, what I'm getting as a thread in this conversation, it's first the honest transparency and transparently communicating the values that you expect, and that will naturally filter some people out of it. The other aspect then is, of course, walking the walk, talking the talk, and showing up yourselves as leaders, and that sounds also incredibly critical and fundamental to the changes that happened. And so it kind of brings me down to sort of the last few questions that I have for you. But many e-commerce leaders, when they're under this pressure to cut costs and do more with less, how can they make sure that they continue to protect the culture of the company during this hard time? Is it the events? Like, what would you say it should be?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think we should all look into AI, right? Because I think AI will help us a lot to be even more, even more efficient, ideally with the same amount of people. I mean, I'm not saying that, for me, definitely AI will not cut people, because that's also a fear I often hear. So I think when looking at efficiency before cutting your people, please first lean into AI and automation. There's so much out there that will help you gain efficiency without cutting people, and will even make your workforce stronger, because people finally can focus more on strategic topics and new processes, new innovation, rather than, doing repetitive operational work. And then again, I mean, it's coming back to what I said previously. I don't necessarily feel that culture costs thing. It's again these small things. It's about what you do as a leader day to day. It's about, yes, sometimes it's about events, but then again, events, I mean, sometimes we just meet in our house for lunch, but then everyone brings their lunch, right? It's just coming together for an hour, sitting together, being there, having fun. Or we have an after work where, I mean, yes, sometimes there's catering, sometimes there's not. So I think it's can be events, but then, as I said, also through our house program, we have all these point scoring connected to things that happen anyway, right? We offer trainings, we have LinkedIn Learning, we have breakfast lectures. So we also try and connect it to things that are there and not add on top. I think the only thing we added on top are our 2 big value events, which, yes, they do cost money, but I think the first we did in-house, right? I mean, we didn't rent any location. We did in-house. We took our office and turned it into a great playground. On every floor, you had different games to play, right? And it was mostly easy games like build a tower with balloons, right? I mean, yes, you have to buy balloons, but what's the cost of balloons, right? But the one game was, you have to build a tower as high as you can with balloons. Yeah. The second one, we draw a labyrinth on the floor and you had to blindfolded, be guided through this labyrinth. And this, I think, that doesn't cost much. It's a bit material. Yeah. Then it's mostly about the time and the leadership support. So I think my big thing is make sure you have the leadership team on board. Yeah. It needs to fit to the company culture, right? We are a very playful, competitive company. Maybe another company says, look, for us, we are not, if we go on stage in Adidas tracksuits, people will think we are crazy. Yeah. Then maybe leave the tracksuits away, just have T-shirts. You can drill it down, you can drill it up, right? I mean, maybe some people want to go full crazy and have even more outfits and even more events. But I think the main message is it's definitely worth investing in culture. Yeah. For me, it's directly linked to business success. And investing in culture doesn't need money. Mm-hmm. It needs commitment from leadership.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful way to wrap it up. And no business conversation in 2025 can end without touching on the infamous topic of artificial intelligence and AI.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you touched on in your answer to that question as well. So I'm actually curious to understand, because you touched on something saying you actually don't fear AI taking jobs away, but rather using that to streamline repetitive tasks. Yeah. And so what is your perspective on, or actually, how are you using AI within Flaconi also to improve work efficiency and also the day-to-day for yourselves and employees?
So we really put a lot of emphasis around the topic because we highly believe in that. And we never steered the conversation from we want to bring AI to cut down costs. It was always we want to make day-to-day easier. We want to make it faster. With it, we can even grow faster. I mean, we opened 3 countries last year, 5 countries this year. Next year, it should be 7, right? So at some point, with nearly the same amount of people. Yeah. So at some point, you need to become faster. And we see AI as a great opportunity. So we work in a Google environment. We all use Gemini. We have ChatGPT licenses. We just bought a tool which connects different Google functions and automates workflows through it. We have a Your Flaconi, or we will have a Your Flaconi group around AI. We even have AI afterworks. So we really try and collect a lot of best practices, share it. Mm-hmm. It's on all the roadmaps. So on my P&C roadmap, number 1 target is make sure you kill repetitive, and I say like this, kill repetitive work.
That's
right?
Strong, yeah.
I don't see any value in my team, doing repetitive work. All our reports, I told you we have a lot of HR reports, which I'm super proud. They are all automated. My team did a great job in 1 year. It's 1 click every month. It generates 12 reports. We can provide all the data to all the leads. And I don't see any value of a team. When I joined, the team took 1 week to create all these reports and check for errors and send it out. And this is what makes me proud. And I celebrate this so much. And I think, again, with this mindset, you directly take away the fear, right? Because we promote these things. We say, good job. This team automated something. And with that, they saved, 4 hours. Just last month in the all hands, there was a team who presented an automation around, creating campaigns faster now in the web shop, and how much time they actually save by that. Yeah. And you can see the full crowd is clapping, and there's no one saying like, but with these, 80 hours, did we cut FTE? No, we don't, right? Mm-hmm. With this 80 hours, we can now expand even faster. Yeah. With these 80 hours, we can spend more time bringing on new brands to our markets. With these 80 hours, we can listen to our customer better to even have, a different packaging or more samples or whatsoever. On my team, and instead of spending time on reports, we can better look at, how do we pay people? We have a bias check to make sure we pay equal pay, right? They can spend so much more time creating engaging events and looking on strategic topics, talking to the teams rather than sitting at their laptop producing report. That's my absolute nightmare.
I feel that same. Yeah. Wow. I think this is wonderful. And we're really at the end of the conversation. So this was an absolute blast to talk to you. And I think really being able to summarize it with culture really is worth the investment. And an investment does not always mean a financial one.
Yes.
And that kill the repetitive tasks 100%.
Please do so.
Because AI is actually an enabler. And if you really promote it within the company, you remove the fears, is essentially what you said. So thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
It was a blast. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for creating this amazing environment. I feel really at home. It was lovely talking to you. So thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate your transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was fun. Thanks for listening to Behind the Click. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and leave us a review. It really helps others discover these stories and helps us to notify you when the next episode goes live. Also, remember to join us at E-commerce Berlin Expo in February to keep the conversation going. We look forward to seeing you there, and until next time.